BRIDGET ACHIENG. BRIDGET ACHIENG was the kind of girl whose beauty could stop traffic. With flawless dark skin, high cheekbones, and a smile that could light up a room, she had always been the talk of her neighborhood. But BRIDGET's story began far from the luxury she longed for. Born in the sprawling slums of Kibera, Nairobi, she grew up surrounded by poverty and struggle. Her parents, hardworking but desperately poor, did everything they could to provide for BRIDGET and her 3 siblings. Her father worked as a casual laborer, taking on construction jobs when they were available, while her mother sold vegetables in the local market. Despite their efforts, there was never enough. BRIDGET's childhood was defined by dreams that often felt out of reach. The narrow, congested alleyways of Kibera, filled with the smells of open sewer and frying food, were a constant reminder of her limitations. Yet BRIDGET's parents instilled in her the importance of education as a way out of their circumstances. She attended a local public school, walking miles every day on dust roads, and managed to excel despite the odds. But when BRIDGET completed high school, the harsh reality of their financial situation came crashing down. There was no money for college. Her parents could barely afford to feed the family, let alone fund her further education. BRIDGET's dreams of becoming a lawyer or a businesswoman began to fade. She took on odd jobs cleaning houses, selling second-hand clothes at Gikomba Market, and babysitting for wealthy families. But it was never enough. Each day felt like a losing battle against poverty. The turning point came when she discovered Instagram. Scrolling through her feed, BRIDGET was captivated by the lives of influencers who seemed to live in another world. Women who looked like her, with melanin-rich skin and dazzling smiles, were jet-setting to exotic locations, wrapped in designer clothes, and living lives of unimaginable luxury. She couldn't help but wonder how they achieved so much while she was stuck in Kibera, struggling to make ends meet. The opportunity to leave her life behind came through a friend named Vanessa, who had also grown up in Kibera but seemed to have escaped its clutches. Vanessa's Instagram was a gallery of opulence, lounging in yachts in the Mediterranean, sipping champagne in 5-star hotels, and wearing clothes straight off the runway. When BRIDGET asked her how she did it, Vanessa's answer was vague but tantalizing. "Dubai, girl, that's where the money is. You've got the looks, BRIDGET. I will hook you up." Vanessa assured her that it was all about meeting wealthy men who were willing to spoil beautiful women. There was no need for a 9-to-5 grind, no endless hustle. BRIDGET hesitated at first. Deep down, she knew the risks, but the allure of an easy, glamorous life was too strong, and the thought of spending another year in Kibera scrapping by was unbearable. A month later, BRIDGET boarded a plane to Dubai, her heart pounding with excitement and fear. Vanessa met her at the airport, and from the very first night, BRIDGET was swept into a world she had only dreamt about. Private parties in penthouse suites, expensive gifts, and promises of unimaginable riches. The men she met were older, wealthy, and seemingly generous. At first, it felt like a dream come true, but soon the dream began to darken. The first red flag came when Vanessa casually mentioned that the men in Dubai had particular tastes. "They are not like guys back home," Vanessa said, almost dismissively. "They will ask for unusual things. But it's worth it, trust me, you will get used to it." BRIDGET's first appointment was with a man named Khalid. He was polite, well-dressed, and handed her an envelope full of cash before even anything happened. It felt easy, almost too easy. But then, Khalid began making requests that left Christine feeling uneasy. He wanted her to do things she had never imagined, things that made her stomach churn and her dignity shrink. But every time she considered walking away, she thought about the money, the lifestyle, and the fear of going back home empty-handed. As weeks turned into months, Bridget found herself descending further into a world of exploitation and degradation. The wealthy men she met were not just eccentric, their fetishes were dark and dehumanizing. Some wanted to humiliate her, others wanted acts so vile that Christine couldn't even bring herself to think about them afterward. And yet, the money kept her there. With each degrading act, she consoled herself by shopping for designer handbags, flaunting her lifestyles on social media, and telling herself it was all worth it. Bridget's Instagram became a carefully curated lie. Her followers saw a glamorous life, luxury hotels, expensive clothes, and radiant smiles. What they didn't see was the other side, the nights of crying in her lavish apartment, the shame that yawned at her, and the growing emptiness inside her. Despite the facade, Bridget's social media following grew rapidly. Young girls from her neighborhood began reaching out, asking how they could have what she had. Bridget hesitated to respond at first, but the guilt of her own choices was overridden by her desire to maintain her image. She began encouraging others, even connecting them to Vanessa, knowing full well the horrors that awaited them. One day, Bridget met a man named Hassan, who pushed her boundaries further than anyone else. He demanded complete control over her life, and his fetishes were so extreme that Bridget felt she had reached her breaking point. But when she tried to leave, she realized she was trapped. Vanessa and others in her network had warned her leaving wasn't as simple as walking away. The men who funded her lifestyle had connections, and they didn't take rejection lightly. Bridget's once beautiful facade began to crumble. Her health deteriorated from the stress and the unsanitary acts she was forced to endure. She became paranoid, fearing that her secret would be exposed or that one of the men would harm her. Her Instagram posts grew less frequent, and her once glamorous life started to look hollow even to her most loyal followers. The breaking point came when one of the young girls Bridget had recruited reached out to her in desperation. The girl, Belle 18, was trapped in the same cycle of exploitation and wanted to escape. Bridget felt a pang of guilt so deep that she could no longer ignore it. She realized that she wasn't just a victim, she had become complicit in luring others into the same nightmare. Determined to make a change, Bridget began planning her escape. She cut ties with Vanessa and the men who controlled her, risking her safety to return home. But the damage was already done. Bridget's reputation was in tatters, and she struggled to rebuild her life. She deleted her social media accounts, hoping to erase the lie she had lived, but the guilt lingered. Back in Kenya, Bridget decided to share her story, warning other young women about the true cost of chasing an illusion of luxury. She spoke about the horrors she endured and the lives destroyed by the facade of wealth and glamour. Her journey was far from over, but for the first time in years, Bridget felt a glimmer of hope, not from a designer handbag or a luxury vacation, but from the possibility of redemption. Tupo hai tunacheza hadi hewe tuchome, twende tushike kaunti, masaa ndio sasa oye, masaa ya sherehe kubwa tutatesa hadi che, twende tushike kaunti,
masaa ndio sasa, oh yeah. Masaa ya sherehe kubwa, tutatesa hadi che. Jioni na karibia, mawio ni mbali sana, lakini roho zetu hazichoki hadi mapambazuko. Mikono juu tukizikutanisha kwa shangwe, tunaposonga mbele moja kwa moja na vicheko. Twende tushike kaunti, masaa ndio sasa, oh yeah. Masaa ya sherehe kubwa, tutatesa hadi che. Twende tushike kaunti, masaa ndio sasa, oh yeah. Masaa ya sherehe kubwa, tutatesa hadi che. Twende tushike kaunti, masaa ndio sasa, oh yeah. Masaa sherehe kubwa, tutatesa hadi che. Twende tushike kaunti, masaa ndio sasa.